7:31 here on Morning Barbados, and as we told you, we're taking a look back at a workshop that was recently held to assist parents who have to deal with children who are diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Al Lane and Julia Hanschel would have conducted those workshops along with some support staff, so they're back to tell us how it went, what people said, and what they told them. Good morning, welcome back.
Good morning.
Morning, it's good to be here.
Al, how did it go?
It was great. It really was great. We had a very successful workshop. Much of what we had to do that day, we felt satisfied that we'd gotten done. We had a number of parents there, we had a number of teachers and a few guidance counselors, and overall, it was an overwhelming success.
What about parents? What was the response from them? Was it
excellent response?
Yeah.
Excellent response from parents. They felt that the content was great. It was what they were looking for. Actually, some people asked us when we were going to do the next workshop.
Well, when? Well,
we actually are going to have a DVD of the workshop.
Great.
That's going to be available. So we're probably going to post some clips on YouTube and so on.
Wonderful.
So you can sort of get a taster of it, and then we'll have the DVDs available, because Al gave information on parenting the child, the ADHD child. I talked about teaching the ADHD child, and it's pretty much a staple, whether it's in a home or in a classroom or a staff room or whatever. So the DVD is going to be pretty useful. That's how we present to our staff at Learning for Life every Friday. We use instructional DVDs, and that's what drives our staff meetings. So this is going to be one that schools can add to their battalion.
Wow,
Sounds like information. Yeah,
Did you get a
it
sense
is a war.
that it was reinforcing what was already known, or was that did you get a sense that people were saying, "Wow, I didn't know that"?
No, a lot of parents are pretty well aware of what the symptoms are because they're living with them. The medical causes of the disorder, they were very interested in. I was very interested in what Al had to say as well, and how we actually presented it in layman's terms to the parents. We had a panel discussion afterwards where we had Dr. Ann St. John and we had Dr. Sue, and they were absolutely brilliant, and they fielded medical questions and so on as well. So it was very informational. What parents didn't know was actually how we teach ADHD children in the classroom. And that was what they were particularly interested in. The question that we had last Sunday night was, do we flog? No. I mean, do you flog someone with leukemia to try and knock that leukemia out of them? So that was a very interesting thing. You had asked me earlier about what was one of the main questions that parents asked. They wanted to know how they could actually start working with the schools their children were at. Because one of the questions was, how can you tell that child is ADHD and not just bad behaved and needs some good lashes? Dr. Sue fielded that question admirably. But parents did want to know how could they form a closer working relationship with the school. Schools are driven by their principals, and once you have a really progressive principal, you have a very good working relationship with the school. And there have been principals out there. I remember when I was younger, there was a principal who said, well, there's no such thing as dyslexia. They're just stupid children.
And words like that have weight, and they stay with children for many, many years
They
to come.
do. You would be amazed. You don't have to tell a dyslexic or an ADHD child that they're stupid, because the fact of the matter is they're not. They're intelligent. They're on the higher end of the IQ spectrum. But they feel stupid because everything is so difficult for them. And they're so anxiety-driven because they want to perform and they feel all day that they're failing when they're really intelligent kids.
Of course, it's a lifetime of working with the individual. But is there a quick something you can pick up on a drugstore shelf that helps from the medical point of view? What are the kind of assistance there?
It's not something you can pick up in the drugstore from the shelf, unfortunately. But what we do recommend is that you work closely with your medical practitioner, whether it's a pediatrician or a psychiatrist. Engage with them in respect to medication. What we found very often is that sometimes the medication may have side effects and the parents immediately stop. 5 years later they come to see us and we essentially have to go back over the issue with the medication. You need to go back to your pediatrician and we need to start all over again, get it titrated properly, and once that's done, then globally the child starts to have better responses to training, better responses to academics, and so on.
Yeah.
Is our medical society though keeping abreast of what's happening?
Dr. Ann St. John made a wonderful comment at the workshop. She said, would a pediatrician give a child medication that's going to harm them in some way? because a lot of parents try to. I mean, it's not every child you need to control ADHD with medication. But I mean, diet can only do so much, and behavioral strategies can only do so much. The medication is actually a stimulant which helps the brain function, you know,
to its optimum level,
and takes away a lot of the anxiety that drives the disorder and drives everybody crazy quite along with it, you know.
And I guess that we get back to the school. You mentioned the principals and the fact that that's driven, but we try to liaise with them as much as possible. Is there any attempts to get them, you know, the way to set up the classrooms, especially once they've identified that there's a child with these issues?
Well, once you have a principal who is absolutely aware of these special needs, the thing is to make the treatments and the physical setup of the classroom and the strategies the teachers use and so on. You know, special ed strategies benefit every child. You know, the gifted and talented child, the absolute mainstream child, the child who has special learning needs. When you integrate those special education needs strategies, they benefit right across the board. Whereas if you just teach mainstream, you're only catching mainstream. You're not even catching the gifted and talented, who alone are special needs. A child who is working 3 years above their proficiency level and is bored in a classroom, you may be seeing exhibitions of behavior, poking children with other pencils and that sort of thing. But they're just bored. I'll tell you, you know, Mia Motley was a classic example of that. She didn't poke anybody with a pencil, as far as I can remember. But when I was a prefect at Queen's College, she was in Form 2. And I'll never forget history lessons. Well, she had done this Arawak and carrot business before. She was absolutely brilliant. And the history teacher made a deal with her. You can come in and you can read. Once you read history books in history class, you can read a history book that's going to satisfy you. The rest of the class will do the Caribs and the Arawaks and, you know, that kind of thing. And Mia was reading about the Russian Revolution and, you know, Trotsky and Lenin and Stalin and so on in Form 2. And the other kids were dealing with the Ubuntu and the Cacique. You know, but she was fortunate because she had a history teacher who understood her needs and catered to them. That's what we need to see more of.
Sometimes, you know, when you're trying to change the mindset of a society, it can feel like you're screaming at the ocean. But every now and again, you get one testimonial or one light bulb moment that makes you feel like what you're doing is still worth it. Do you have a moment like that?
I have a lot of moments like that. I got a call from a parent just recently. She says, Al, my ADHD child just got 78 in math and 80 in English. And I thought to myself, are you surprised? Kids with attention deficit generally are very intelligent. The thing is, we spend so much time telling them that they're not, they get to the point where they start to believe it.
Yeah, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, so we get a lot of moments like that from parents once they understand what attention deficit is and how to work with it.
Yeah, teachers need to tap their intelligence and tap their energy. You know, everything is a coin. You either look at it on the negative side or you look on it on the positive side.
You know, teachers will tell you, well, how much more am I supposed to know? You know, how much more am I supposed to pay attention to? We have the ones with special needs who are acting out. We have the ones who come from disadvantaged homes. The ministry wants me to finish my syllabus on time. What do you say to
it's an awful job they have, but would you go to a doctor who wasn't abreast of the latest?
Probably not.
How many teachers aren't abreast of even
the basics?
The basics. You know, it's probably the only profession where you can train 20 years ago, and if you don't drive your own professional development and something doesn't sort of come and land in front of your lap, you don't actually upgrade your skills. Now, you wouldn't go to a doctor whose skills weren't upgraded. You wouldn't go to an optician whose skills weren't upgraded, or a lawyer or a banker, and a teacher is the same level of professional. In fact, we're even more important because we shape minds of the generations to come. So you've got to be constantly upgrading your skills. You know, as my dad used to say, reading is an education in itself. You can't go away to a conference, read a book. You know, we're always telling our kids, read a book.
Read
a book.
As an adult.
Go online, look and see what's rated highly in the area in which you're having the biggest problem, whether it's behaviors or a lot of the behaviors we're seeing in the classroom are not from ADHD kids, you know. They're coming from privileged children. And there's a great book called The Price of Privilege. Now that deals with that issue, you know. Read a book.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, upgrade your skills.
Julia is passionate and emphatic as always. Clearly, you believe in the cause, and we thank you for coming back to share the results. Hopefully, there'll be many, many more light bulb moments.
And look out for the DVD. It's going to come. We'll put a YouTube clip on first so you can get a taster of it and see if you're interested in it, and it'll be a DVD that's...
we're looking forward to it.
That's worth seeing.
Maybe we'll get your contact information off air, because if there's someone who does not have an ADHD child but who still wants to help, I'm sure you'd like some volunteers. Elaine and Julia Hanschel, teaching the ADHD child, giving us an update of the workshop we just held, that was just held. Many light bulb moments. We're turning the corner and changing minds one child at a time. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we speak with Irika Jelani on Morning Barbados. We've got more on the Friday edition, so don't go away.